We don't talk about iPhone much here on the channel, but from jibes to full-blown homage, I have to say the Pixel 10 Pro XL owes a lot to the iPhone, and by extension, the 16 Pro Max. But how does Apple's best device of last year stack up against Google's best of this year? Well, here's everything you need to know. For more Pixel comparisons and basically everything else in between, stick around by hitting that subscribe button. It does me a massive favour and we'll be friends for life. So yeah, thanks. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Google's design brief was an iPhone but Android last year, and well, I have to say it stuck. And let's not sugarcoat things here, these phones look like long lost relatives. Good artists copy, great artists steal after all. It's just more of the same that we saw last year. It has almost the exact same dimensions, the same standout camera bar differences. It's all basically a retread. The bigger camera bar is but a blip in the design choices. Adding magnets to the rear completes its overall metamorphosis. This is as close as an iPhone and an Android can get without exchanging chassis and logos. And it's worth noting that the G logo on the Pixel 10 Pro XL has even increased in size to mimic the larger Apple logo that you'll see on every iPhone, including the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Maybe next year we'll get a whole backplate with a massive G to go one step further. One thing to note is that the Pixel 10 Pro XL is about 5 grams or so heavier. In the hand, I will say the iPhone feels far sturdier. I would put this down to a bit of build, or at least a build quality gap. Although the Pixel still feels great and has improved year over year, at least in that regard, it is worth noting that the iPhone definitely has an edge in terms of overall build quality. Another copycat decision is the lack of SIM tray in the US. Yes, neither of these devices can take a physical SIM in the United States, but you will need to contact your carrier or get an eSIM issued to use it on a cellular network. You can still get that in global markets if you have that option. Luckily, eSIMs are becoming more and more common all over the globe, so I don't think this is as much as a problem as it once probably was. There are no dedicated buttons or anything on the Pixel 10, so it's worth noting cases don't have any weird cutouts like they do on the iPhone due to some extra buttons like camera control. It's just seamless metal on the one side and volume and power buttons on the right side. Being biased for a moment, the color options I have to say are just a little bit more vibrant this time around for the Pixel. The Moonstone is a particular standout, and the color matched cases with those button covers, I think they're the icing atop the cake. I don't necessarily think iPhone is bad, but yeah, if you want that extra level of cohesion, I don't know why, I just think Google has really sewn this one up. It's hard not to argue though that matte rails on the iPhone still look incredible, so yeah, if you're a case-free person and you want to use a skin, that might be a better option for you. So after surpassing the iPhone 16 Pro Max last year, the Pixel 10 Pro XL display has gone a step further by upping the brightness to 3200 nits. You are getting arguably one of the best phone displays outside of a Samsung factory with either the iPhone 16 Pro Max or the Pixel 10 Pro XL. I think if Apple removed the dynamic island notch, then it probably could move a lot more up the rankings, but it's a no contest here once again. You get great color accuracy, deep blacks, and a rich experience on both of these panels, but yeah, I have to say the Pixel 10 Pro XL takes the cake in terms of screen quality and consistency. And while the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the iPhone 16 Pro Max definitely share some of those similarities and visual changes that you probably are used to, we're talking about two completely divergent visions of mobile operating systems in Android and iOS, and it is really unfair in some ways to compare these like for like. That said, Liquid Glass is the new look for iOS, Material 3 Expressive is the future of Android. Functionally, there are some similar things going on here, but I will say that Apple's version adds glossy hues, clear panes, floating panels, and while it can look amazing, it can, most of the time, to be frank, look atrocious. And system level blurs have been added to try and tone down the poor accessibility that this can introduce to the system. Android 16 QPR1 adds a bounce, a distinct character that isn't quite as reliant on you making the right decision to prevent your phone from looking messy or visually cluttered like Liquid Glass might. It simply builds on Material U without throwing away the principles that make it such a good system for a phone. You can probably tell that I don't like Apple's visions for iOS, but even customization can't save this poorly planned out visual overhaul in my book. Google might take design cues from Apple at times, at least with the hardware, but at least on Android, it won't ruin the experience for no discernible reason or just because they think they have to. Material 3 Expressive absolutely slaps iOS out of the park, and I've got to say it's with nothing more than a bun. Apple Intelligence also continues to flounder even in the year since this device was released. Magic Q could be that latent AI assistant on Android that actually does things that Apple set out to do way back at WWDC in 2024 when they introduced Apple Intelligence. I think to me it's clear that Google can follow through on AI promises without needing to compromise. Apple doesn't necessarily have that much of a, I guess, stake in it, so they can't necessarily make all of those things they want to make come true like Google can. Where Apple does have the edge though is in raw performance. Tensor G5 is a fine chip, but it just won't get close to what the A series chips can do, and likely won't for a long time, and it definitely needs to be part and parcel of Google's development process for their chips moving forward. You have to give credit where it's due. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is an absolute beast, while the Pixel 10 Pro XL is, well, it's much less so. It's not even the best or most powerful Android phone on the market, and you need to decide for yourself if that matters to you. So while Tensor is not the most powerful, it hasn't been all that kind to Pixel batteries over the past 4 years, and the Pixel 10 Pro has an even bigger 5200 mAh battery in its XL version. It's better than it was last year, which is to say it ain't bad at all, even with a substantially smaller 4684 mAh cell though. Someone needs to just spill the beans on how Apple can achieve such longevity on the iPhone 16 Pro Max with practically tiny capacities compared to their Android brethren. Charging is definitely better on the Pixel, which is nice as it needs charging more often. According to Google, it has 45-watt wired charging. That's going to give you 70% battery in just under 30 minutes, which is a lot better than the 50% in 30 minutes on the iPhone 16 Pro Max with a 30-watt power brick. Both have 25-watt charging via MagSafe and Pixel Snap respectively, so yeah, lots of options, but it is one of those things that definitely favors the iPhone in terms of longevity experience. So because there are no camera hardware upgrades, it's very much a similar situation as it was last year when we compared the iPhone 16 Pro Max to the Pixel 9 Pro XL. There are lots of post-processing effects on the Pixel to play around with. There are neat functions like Camera Coach, which is going to show you how to take better photos, but yeah, I will say nothing groundbreaking right now. But where the Pixel has a big advantage is with that new ProRes zoom feature. I do think traditionalists will really dislike the fact that this uses AI to clean up blocky, blurry photos at that 100x level, and even at the upper echelons of the zoom range. AI models and extra detail can turn something that is practically ruined into something more usable. You don't have to use this, but it will do so by default, and the original is saved so you can revert to that anytime if you want to. It is very impressive to see, albeit in a did I actually take this kind of manner. So yeah, use it sparingly is what I'd say. Video boost on the Pixel 10 Pro XL is also as good as what the iPhone 16 Pro Max can do, the caveat being that it still needs that upload-download process to even work. If you are without a data connection, it is resoundingly beaten by the iPhone, but yeah, in terms of overall camera experience, many of these photos boil down to what you prefer, natural processing or HDR focused. The Pixel is much better with a wider array of skin tones thanks to real tone. The rest of the camera lenses, I think they go really toe to toe, and it is hard to decide which is the best. So if we're asking, has Google finally caught up to the iPhone? Well, the short answer to that question is no. Google hasn't quite caught the iPhone this year, but it's obvious that the Pixel lineup can definitely attract buyers and fans by focusing on functions that work without too much interaction. Basically, the kind of things that run in the background and do things for you without you having to think about it. Converting iPhone users over to Pixel is definitely an uphill battle, and most of you will already have made your choice before you watch this video, but another good showing this year could really start to turn some heads for the Pixel series. We aren't likely going to see people handing over their iPhones, or especially the iPhone 16 Pro Max, in favor of the Pixel 10 Pro anytime soon is what I'm trying to say here. But that said, many iPhone users would be right at home if they did choose to switch to a Pixel specifically this year, and I do think there is probably no better time to switch than right now with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. It's a great phone in its own right, might not be the outright best in every single scenario, but yeah, neither is the iPhone. Let me know what you think down in the comment sections below. Do you think that the Pixel 10 Pro XL can go toe-to-toe with the iPhone 16 Pro Max? And yeah, we will have a comparison with the 17 series when that arrives, hopefully in the coming months. But until then, thanks for watching, and I will catch you later.